to this episode of the Peter and Chris Are Learnding podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Chris, and we are delighted to introduce our guest today. Keron, I'm an actor. I've been in TV and film, and I worked with Chris on a show called Kirkmoore. And I was the youngest member of the cast. Can we just... You were a baby. Yeah, and I was also in all the sex education, which most people heard of. But yeah, here we go.
Talk about name dropping. Bang!
Yeah, of course. I've done this before. This is what actors have to do to get the lesson. How do you find it growing up? So I grew up in Cornwall. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have in Cornwall. But I still. Why are you laughing at that? I wasn't even a joke. I can't even. So yeah, in terms of my disability, I was the only wheelchair user at my primary school. There was one other wheelchair user for a couple of years in my secondary, but generally I was the only one. That was, we say, formative experience. I think I think it was, obviously that's why representation for me, and I'm sure we'll get onto this, is so important, like actually seeing somebody else like yourself. I know the value of that because I didn't have it when I was growing up. And I didn't see it on TV, I didn't see it. I live in such a rural part of Cornwall as well, that full stop, let alone disabled people. And I'm sure there are disabled people here, we just don't see them because accessibility issues, etc., etc. So yeah, it obviously forced me into researching like disability, and not being allowed in the school production is what started my interest in acting. So yeah, I wasn't allowed in the school production. Why weren't you allowed? What, the official reason or the unofficial reason? I mean, obviously both. Well, the official reason was something like they valued my creative input behind the scenes or something like that. Which basically meant we're not giving you a job on stage. But bear in mind, this is a school production where the teachers are in charge, so the amount of creative input I had behind the scenes was zilch. Was nothing at all, because obviously I'm not a teacher. So that was the kind of official reason, but the unofficial reason, which is what I heard through friends, where the teacher had told them directly, it was something like, "We don't think Keron fits the context." Now, bearing in mind, the play was Oliver, so disabled people did exist in Dickensian Britain. Yeah. I don't understand, or I do understand, obviously it's just ableism, but that was my kind of baptism of fire into the world of casting and that diversity. And obviously I went down a massive rabbit hole in terms of this. My school was not the only people who had this opinion. This opinion can be seen throughout the professional industry of TV and theatre. And that's where my interest and love of talking about diversity started, and I haven't really got off that train since. And I love every time I get a new job thinking about the teacher who didn't cast me in a school production, what they think of when I'm the only person from my year group working professionally as an actor. Get
Boom.
And
yeah. Weird.
Indeed.
And how many years ago was that?
A long time ago.
Okay.
Pretty much 10 years. And as I said, I'm not that old anyway. So as I remind Chris, I'm literally yeah. So yeah, and I was in year 9. So yeah, 2015.
Bloody hell, you are really young.
Yeah, and I had to navigate that myself as well in terms of speaking to adults, speaking to how do I, and that's yeah. So I've been researching these issues for a long time.
I mean that for anyone that didn't know Karen personally, that like his drive and his inhibition to like get stuff done is like second to none. Like Karen, I don't know why I'm being so nice to Karen, but like that's what I do admire about you is you have one of these obstacles, but they're actually like you just run over them and you just you smash it every time. So
That's very kind of you, Chris.
thank you.
Yeah, change doesn't happen until we make it. And I'm determined to keep banging the drum, and the work never stops.
It really did, like I know like there's I mean this podcast could probably go on for hours talking about the state about oh my god I'm dying about the state of like disability and the arts
And the media.
where it should be. So maybe we could like we'll dive in a bit deeper later on, but we could definitely do another 2-3 podcasts.
Yeah, we could definitely could, and that's such a shame, really, that we've got so much to.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. And so from that going forward, how did you get sort of like spotted? What was that first initiation into the world of?
There was an audition for the National Youth Theatre, and it was on the Saturday, and I found out about it on the Thursday. Fortunately, I had a monologue already in my head. I was the first person with CP to become a National Youth Theatre member. And then from that, I got introduced to a friend who introduced me to an agent. And then that's kind of how I got in. Yeah, and then that was it, really. I just got a professional agent and then started working. And then after about 18 months, I met Chris.
Wow, it was really that quick. Wow.
It was really quite quick. I had my first job within 8 months, and then off the back of that job, I got Kirkmoore.
Damn, that's impressive. Yeah, I also auditioned for you. Yeah, but I didn't get it, so I'm
no, but I know obviously I didn't make out really for being older, but I was that many years behind you in terms of admittance, and your culture had changed, and so without people like you before me, I wouldn't have been able to probably get in. So
yeah.
It's all a process, isn't it? And we just need to keep banging the drum for why diversity is important.
Yeah.
And that's what I keep telling you, Chris. You're a legend, even though you go, that's a bit of a stretch.
No, the legend bollocks didn't fly.
He's not old enough to be a legend.
I'm not, exactly. I'm too young to be encouraging that.
Well, I did actually say to Chris that Leia from Story Tricity was the first one that we kind of saw on TV. And then Chris came along a few days later on, and then obviously it's grown to be a big industry since.
we can't make his, we can't rub his ego too much because
Exactly.
Yeah, so as you said, you've got Kirkmoore. This was and you played David, I assumed.
yeah, I did indeed. I was fortunate enough to be with David throughout the whole process because I was Chris joined us a little bit later, which we were obviously very happy with. Before we get to drive in, I'll say something nice.
Well, I mean, I actually auditioned for Hugo's role. I can't remember the name of that character, but
Jack.
No, not Jack. I auditioned for
Did they change the name? I didn't know that.
No, so I auditioned for the one who's
I see. Who you? Yeah.
So I auditioned for another role, and then Hugo got sick, and then they said, "Oh, why don't you play Jack?" And I was like, "Well, okay, like I don't really know Jack as a character, but like I could definitely come up with something." And I think that was the night before we all came down for the first read-through.
Yeah, it was very last minute.
Yeah, very like hard to like have one character and then have to come up with a completely new one.
So, how did the program? So, for those of you that haven't seen Kirkmoore, kind of explain what Kirkmoore is and how the sort of filming went on. What was the premise of Kirkmoore, first of all?
I would describe the way I describe Kirkmoore is the in-betweeners, but for disabled people in school.
Okay.
So that is the vibe. I think we had 3 disabled leads. We had a majority disabled cast. We had a disabled writer. So in terms of disability representation, there is very few shows out there like it, and we're very proud of that. We got BAFTA nominated, and
Did we?
yeah,
Chris, how did you forget?
and I think that question there exemplifies the difference between Chris and I.
Yeah.
That is why Chris plays Jack and I play David. Yes, we got BAFTA nominated. I can't believe you didn't know that.
Where were you, Chris? Why are you living under a rock?
No, I just thought, it's a really good pilot, and I thought that was it.
It was really good. It's so good it got BAFTA nominated. That's hilarious. Why are you asking me questions? You need to be asking Chris.
And then, so you got the Kirkmoore. So for those that haven't seen it, sort of going into it, what was the overall plot line for the pilot? The
overall plot involved Chris's character not knowing what's going on most of the time, which it clearly took a lot of acting for him.
It didn't need much.
No comment, Peter. No comment. And Chris is just hand in hand. So yeah, that was. Although I joke that is part of the plot. Our characters have a day at school, where we get along in the way that good friends do, with lots of banter, and then we hit the town and shenanigans ensued on the night out, and we don't need to cover all the details because both Chris and I are slightly traumatized by that anyway. So that was a very brief overview of the episode.
How do you find the filming for the pilot? Do you think it? I mean, were the days where you were knackered, or were the days where you were like, this is really tough?
I loved it. I think for me, it was as accessible as filming can be. Filming, I mean, you may have a different experience, and I'll let you talk to your experience. And I know I think we did have a slightly different experience. But for me, filming is always tough. Like the hours are the hours, and there's not a lot you can do to avoid them. But on the whole, I would say I was pretty well looked after. I haven't really experienced a better accessibility. But I think at the end of the day, that is testament to both our producer Holly and obviously having Andrew as the writer and another disabled person behind the scenes. I think that helped us, which again underlines the importance of diversity both in front of and behind the camera. I really enjoyed it. I use Kirkmoore as a good example of how you make accessible filming environments. Also, can I just add, there was multiple disabled people on the set all week, and it worked. So all these people who can't cope with one disabled person is utter nonsense. It's like, you can't do it, you just got to plan ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that there was my favorite of the whole thing is where all in the same scene, like, and you had the great dialogue, you had me and Fran's character having a go at each other. We had a pretty open sexual relationship being described to us, and it was like, this is gonna go on the iPlayer at least, and this is a great step for disabled characters who are sometimes very lacking in character,
how many other shows have that amount of disability representation?
I can't think of one.
In them, let alone one scene.
Yeah, and that sort of is a good segue into another thing that you did after that. Were too good for this, which was released during COVID 2021. It was basically to do with disability independent.
It was, but in a very illegal way.
Okay.
That was my first ever job, and off the back of that job, I got Kirkmoore. So I have a lot. I owe a lot to that, sure. And yes, so I played a drug dealer, which, as you can tell, is definitely my casting type. But I did the work. I got lots of compliments, and I got Kirkmoore off the back of it. So I must have done an okay job. And we basically, it was about the fact that society underestimates disabled people, and our characters exploited that for questionable ends. but that's kind of not the point of the film and what they chose to do with it. The point of the film was repeatedly people overlook them, even the police and etc. etc. So our characters use that to their advantage.
Don't try us at home, kids. Stay in school.
how when you first got that job, like how are your parents? Were they very supportive? Are they always supportive?
Yeah, my parents are great. My dad doesn't really, and I mean this in a nice, positive way. He doesn't really know the film world, so like he kind of is bemused the fact that it's even a job. And, like, what, you get paid to do that? I mean, well, he's going to do proper work. You're like, what? Like, how did you get away with that? And but yeah, but both my parents love film as well, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, mum and dad have always been amazing. They've always been mum and dad are two of the shyest people I know, so they don't really understand why I want to do something quite so public. And like, dad would never ever speak with a microphone, and mum would run away from any camera as well. So they don't really understand where I've come from in terms of my approach to being public is very different. But again, I guess my life has been very different in terms of I'm disabled, not, and yeah. So I love my parents a lot, obviously, but well, not obviously, but I'm very fortunate to have an amazing relationship with them.
Yeah, I mean, so like, where is your confidence come from? Like, bullet point it. Where did it like come from?
Well, we can go full circle to where it started, really, in terms of me not being allowed in that school production. I then chose drama as a GCSE.
Mm-hmm.
My drama teacher was a bit like unsure about, but basically I just learned resilience very young in terms of, no, I am going to do this. I'm not going to let your ableism win.
Yeah.
And the more I did it, the more I realised I could do it, and the more other people seem to enjoy it as well. Because I think as a disabled person, I'm very good at making people feel comfortable, which I think we all have to do. We all have to make jokes and kind of self-deprecating humour, which as an adult now I can identify as not always the healthiest, because disabled people shouldn't have to laugh at ourselves to be heard.
Yeah.
But that was the kind of coping mechanism that I used at school, and from that, I've always been drawn to drama, always been drawn to acting. It's kind of one step has led to another.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously now I know a lot of great disabled people. Like Rosie Jones, Francesca Martinez. I mean, I know people that don't have physical disabilities. I know quite a lot. But they just, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Me neither.
At the moment, you're just listening to
I'm sounding like I'm an AB person. Like, I was not a disabled
Can I just interrupt there? Should you just use a abbreviation? Do you use AB?
So I didn't until I met my partner Sam. She used AB to begin with.
This is Peter's looking stressed here.
This is
Like,
gonna sound
Oh, no,
so
I was just
bad.
thinking, what the
he's
fuck's
like,
AB?
where is this going? Where is this going?
Well, I've
Right.
always thought that with Chris, but that is always
This
going.
is gonna sound really bad, right? But I, because of me being, I mean, at least when I was growing up, I was the only disabled kid. So I would use the word normal to describe non-disabled people, which I know is like really bad, but it like
Yeah.
that was the thing like 30 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I tend to use the word ordinary, but I don't think that's the correct term either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree with able-bodied as well.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't like able-bodied. I mean, I'm a bit not. I mean, obviously, non-disabled is the current used term, but I don't like. I'm not sure about non-disabled either. I'm in the camp of which my own word, which is pre-disabled. But
Ooh.
I understand that. I understand there's a lot of terminology explaining I have to do before I can normalise that word. But able-bodied just doesn't work for me. Non-disabled is kind of nondescript. I mean, what does that even mean? At the moment, I mean, do you want to have a deep dive on terminology?
I mean, I'm happy to do it. You're happy to do it.
I mean, able-bodied I don't like because able to do what? What is your body able to do that every single disabled body isn't able to do?
Yeah.
I don't think that isn't a sufficient answer to me. Non-disabled, again, it does the job, but it also doesn't do it. What does it even mean? It's just nondescript. Pre-disabled, the reason I like pre-disabled is because we need to break this kind of artificial barrier between people who are disabled and who are not, because disability is more complicated than that.
Yeah.
It's if you live long enough, you will join our community, and we are the only minority group that each and every one of us will join at some point in our lives. So I just think non-disabled is that is a temporary state as well, whereas pre-disabled acknowledges that temporality, and so that's. But I appreciate that we're barely off. We barely got away from able-bodied to non-disabled as a society. So to make the next step is and you have to be aware to take people with you, because otherwise you just get labelled as woke or whatever the.
I'm not a big fan of woke either. Like, you know, I totally get like we have to accept different creeds and everything else, but I don't think I've woken up to the idea of being nice to people. That's
If Captain's ever looking for you personally to take over Ditching Corner Susie Den, give him a call. He's got all the wires available. So yeah, we haven't really touched on sex education yet. Sex education, I've kind of like sort of, I've not seen a proper episode, like a full episode, but I've not seen. I've seen a few clips, but that's about it.
You've not seen sex education. That is fair play. There's not very many people in our age group haven't, because, and that's obviously a very popular position to be in. But so I was a massive fan of sex ed before I did the job. So it was
I started it, and then there was a casting call for season 2, and obviously I did not get that job. Well, I've said that like 2 or 3 times tonight. I do get jobs sometimes. But I didn't get that job, and then I just kind of got really angry with it, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna watch it until your episode came out, and then I just watched your bits.
Yeah, that's very kind of it. What you don't, I don't even realise, but I filmed Sex Ed like 3 or 4 days before we shot Kirkmoore.
Yeah.
So my brain was like fried because I had to learn all my Sex Ed stuff, which wasn't a lot, but it was just because of the kind of the secrecy around it was so last minute that you couldn't. I was given the script on the morning of filming, so like,
Really?
so it was. I had like 2 hours to like learn my lines, and I also had my dissertation due in 2.5 weeks after Kirkmoore. So I was my brain at that time. I don't know quite how I held it together in terms of.
Wow.
But you had to basically just, separate. My brain is Sex Ed this week, Kirkmoore next week, and then dissertation the week after.
I mean, you smashed it. And what grade did you get for your dissertation?
Did you ask that
I
question?
did that way.
What do you think I got, Chris?
I think you got 55.
I'm 55. No, I got 88. 88.
I went modest because I thought, like, you might not have passed. So I went modest.
I did my dissertation on disability representation in the media.
Oh,
Of course you did, of course.
Yeah, of course I did, and I did it, and I got first overall as well. If we're gonna really go there, let's go there. But yeah, I did that off the back of filming 2 TV shows.
Wow.
And how was it? How was it being on set with big stars like I'm gonna do some name dropping for you now. So Keron Anderson, Mimi Keane, who I followed from EastEnders, with Asia Butterfield, who obviously was the little boy in the Striped Pajamas, in that wonderful film. How was it being on set with these kind of like?
I love the fact that you said, how was it on set with some big names, and you didn't say Chris. I noticed that. I had a really lovely filming experience. Obviously, like Chris knows, when you're actually on set, the people who are not in the scenes, obviously weren't there that day, so I was on set with Shooty, Mimi, George. So, and obviously I loved working with George because he was the person who got the job for Sex Ed. And obviously that role was so pivotal to both the show, but also in terms of disability representation. But yeah, I've obviously been fortunate enough to work. Obviously I took the makeup request, but been fortunate enough to work with lots of amazing actors over the years, and Chris.
Go on, yes.
Wow.
And
That's you not coming back on you.
I'm keeping that one in, Chris. I'm keeping that one in.
But yeah, it was, and I've been fortunate enough to work with lots of amazing people, so it's always a joy to meet new amazing people.
I totally forgot about Shooty there for a minute.
He's lovely. Once you meet him, you never forget Shooty.
What do you mean? I'm lovely.
Yeah, sure.
That
Great acting there, Karen. Great acting there.
But yeah, I just keep forgetting because I've only known Shooter to be Doctor Who, so I keep forgetting that he was on Sex Ed with Eric. So we're coming to 2023. So what have you been up to for the last 2 years, or you've been in other projects, but I'm ND doesn't, sort of haven't announced anything recently. So what's in the pipeline for you,
Is
really?
that you throwing shade at my career?
No,
I filmed a new TV show this year, and that'll be out. And I have also got a couple of my own projects that are yet to be announced. We are in full motion, and I think I'm going to be very busy next year.
Lovely. So our last podcast, we had Mr. Tim Winkle on, and we're doing a thing where, we can kind of ask a question from one guest to another without knowing who that guest is. And unfortunately, Karen, we have to ask you, where is the body buried? Where is it?
That is such a multifaceted question. the depth of yes in that question is unparalleled. Whereas if we get okay, we can't spin it around the other way. Well, unfortunately, in a lot of our media, there's a lot of hidden disabled bodies in our because we are not seen on TV or film in the way that we do. So we are hidden behind the camera, not involved, and not ready. So that's how I would answer that very odd question. The bodies are hidden, not being utilised on film and TV sets.
Well,
Karen.
and the real answer to where is the teacher's body's kept, because obviously you've shown her that you can be on TV and that you can act and you can actually be on stage.
Just to be clear, I have no intention of.
No, we don't care about irrelevant teachers. Come on.
Do you know he actually followed me about 8 months ago, which is quite funny.
Yeah.
He followed me on Instagram, and
Lovely.
I think I haven't followed him back, but I think it's quite funny. Him obviously now being able to see what work I'm doing. But,
I love it when I hear a become a fan. Great.
It's really odd.
Yeah. Have you got a question for our next guest?
I'm going to be slightly kinder to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is if you could change one thing about the world today, what would it be and why?
Oh, wow.
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
And then they can answer it in any way they want, and they don't have to spend the whole call trying to work out how to answer their question.
Yeah, that's Tim. That's Tim for you.
Tim, we love Tim.
Yeah.
Is there anything? So you do a lot of podcasts. Is there anything that you have been dying to talk about on any interview, any podcast? Is there anything that you yourself are like, why had nobody asked me about this?
Well, I would just reiterate what I always say, which is diversity without disability is not diversity. Diversity benefits all of us, whether you're disabled or not. One day you will be disabled, so how we represent disabled people matters to you, regardless of who you are. And therefore, it's on all of us to do all that we can to both increase and improve disability representation. So that's how, if you take one thing away from this podcast, is firstly, I'm younger than Chris, and secondly, diversity really matters.
It does. And we have honestly enjoyed your time. Thank you for coming on and giving us your insights and your knowledge. And it's been an amazing time.
And
Thank
your
you.
love for and your love for Chris as well.
Yes, and it's such a joy to see you again, Chris. Even though we take the mickey out of each other, I think it's
I think the best way to end this podcast is you give me a big compliment. Because
That's gonna be difficult. That's gonna be difficult.
Is that how we want to end this podcast?
Yes, I do.
I just have to tell you how amazing he was. No, I would. Okay, let's do it like this. I wouldn't be sat on a Monday evening. I wouldn't, whoever it was, I wouldn't be sat there, anybody. But Chris later calls and I'll be there.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much.
And you can pay me later.
I will. But hold on, before we let you go, we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Don't forget to follow us on all the various channels, and it's been Learnding, and we'll see you on the next one.